Good morning, everybody. My name's Michael Troy. I work with Rentley here. I'm going to be doing a presentation about self-guided touring, kind of what to understand when looking to implement a self-guided touring solution, kind of going off of our experience in the space, and how implementing a self-guided touring platform can be beneficial to your business, especially with what's been going on, and then just trends we've seen in the space the last few years as well. And for those of you who attended our bingo session last night, thank you. I heard it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that everybody who showed up could make it. And hopefully I'll give you some info here today about Rentley and about our platform that can be beneficial to you moving forward. So with that being said, I'll just go ahead and kind of kick things off today. So just a little bit on the agenda and points I'll be covering today. So overall, just want to touch on what self-guided touring is, why offering self-guided tours can be beneficial, and how implementing a self-guided touring solution can fit with your existing processes. So that's, having to do with integrations, how it can work alongside the management team, leasing agents, leasing staff, and so forth. I'll go through, kind of examples and how we see managers we work with kind of implement the solution to see the most success. I'll touch on security. Security is always a big piece when it comes to self-guided tours. At our core, we are allowing people to go out and view properties at their own time. So kind of how do companies verify prospect information? How do they make sure the showings are secure? And then what's been done, recently, and how companies, as well as Rentley ourselves, continue to update and make sure that we're staying kind of one step ahead of what we would see in the space. And then on top of prospect security, kind of what we do on the data side as well, protecting information and making sure prospects feel secure using a platform like this. I'll also touch on operational efficiency benefits, really just on how self-guided touring, during the time of COVID, kind of that plan B becoming plan A, and then how self-guided tours, again, can be used with in-person tours, being that supplemental tool, being the added tool on the tool belt to really see the most success with the platform. So I'll touch on that. And then I'll get into hardware towards the end of the presentation. Hardware could be its own separate piece. We could go on and on about, different type of access controls and how that plays in. But just touching on different options that you'll see in the space in terms of implementing self-guided tours. What hardware option will be the best fit for you, whether that be, a smart lockbox device, if you're looking at smart locks, smart home, really just different things to consider when implementing the solution. So just kind of giving the background there. And the first slide I want to start with here is just, giving the idea, what is self-guided tours? So self-guided tours really are allowing managers to implement contactless showing for prospects. It's a way to allow prospects to view a property at a time that's most convenient for them, whether that be during normal business hours during the week, during after-hour times, during the weekends, really being able to book a time instantly online and then go out and view that property. Rentley, for example, we set sort of time ranges at the property level. Our standard time range will be about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then as prospects are finding properties online that they're interested in, they're able to see that self-guided tour option and then select that property and time to view, just to kind of make sure that as prospects are interested in a property, in viewing it, as they see it online, they're able to then just click on that property and then select that time and property to view. Now, there's no leasing agent required for self-guided tours, of course. We're allowing the prospects to go view on their own. There are big points of security and verification involved. So as prospects are selecting that property to view, they are being verified. We are gathering that information before then directing them out to the property itself. And just to give some data points here that we see in the space, about 20 million renters are going to move annually. 86% of those renters moving annually want to actually tour the unit themselves. So what that means is they want to go and view that property, whether that be with an in-person tour or a self-guided option. Not so much the virtual option, that they would see. They want to go out, walk around the property, get a feel for it before they ultimately end up leasing. And then about 4 properties are toured on average. Out of those renters who are moving annually, who are going out to view, within our system, we see that 3 to 5 tour range is kind of that benchmark that prospects will be doing before they ultimately find that property they're interested in leasing. And then out of those tours taking place, we're seeing about 40% of those tours occur after hours. After hours being just outside of traditional leasing hours, outside of the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then further hours Saturday and Sunday. And I'll show some data points as I get through here. But just to go off of our experience, at Rentley, we do see quite a bit of traffic taking place in that 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. time slot. That's going to be huge for that self-guided tour option. Even with COVID going on, even with work from home, we are still seeing quite a bit of traffic taking place in that later afternoon time slot, and then on the weekends as well, of course. And I'll highlight some data points as I get through here as well. So going on to the next slide here, I just want to outline some key self-guided touring components. Really what you want to look for in terms of implementing this kind of solution. It's not just an access solution, giving a key when an agent's not there to let them go view. There's a lot of different moving parts that are involved in sort of an all-encompassing self-guided tour solution, and just different things to be aware of when you're looking at options in terms of adding on a platform. So, some big points that we look at, the first one being the renter experience. That prospect experience is going to be big for renters going out to look, right? If it's their first time using a self-guided tour solution, they're a little bit confused on how it might work. You want to make sure that what's in place, is as easy to use for anybody looking at a property online, right? It's easy to use for them to go through and view. It's simple. It's quite easy to register, and the time it takes to verify, is not it's not dragged out. It's not asking prospects, 10 different things before they can go view. You want to make sure that experience is robust while also just being simple for them to go through and use it. And anybody, looking online would be able to use it. It's not just, a younger generation, younger demographics, people who are tech savvy. You want to make sure that that prospect experience is as simple and easy to use as any other app you would see on your phone. And Rentley, for example, we've built out our renter experience over the last 10 years, continually update it to make sure, it is secure. And at the same time, we see prospects of all different age groups being able to go through quite easily to be able to go out and view. And I'll show a little bit of a look at our prospect journey, just to give an example of what that looks like for prospects signing up and just verifying their information. So renter experience is going to be big. Another big piece is a manager portal or manager access, creating easy to use management tools. So along with the self-guided tour solution, you're going to see other pieces added into a platform, in the space. So along with the self-guided tour option, you'll see things like a scheduler, being able to book online, with an in-person tour, kind of coinciding with the self-guided tour option. You'll see some data dashboard. There'll be tracking for prospects going through to view, whether that be the guest card information, times they're going out, scheduled showings turning into completed tours, and just things like that within the management portal that are important for your team to be able to utilize to make sure you see the most success with a self-guided tour platform. Because managers and leasing staff are important in seeing success with these kind of tools. Because once you kind of place a device out at the property, or you start allowing self-guided tour access, there's got to be work done on the management side to be able to track those leads, be able to respond back quickly, and then just see as showings are taking place, who's interested, who's applying, what's going on at the property, what are people saying about it, just to be able to kind of stay in the loop while you are doing contactless showings, while they are taking place in an automated fashion, just still being involved kind of in the process as prospects go through, just to be able to kind of see all the information as it comes in. So big manager portal or management tools are important. Access is another big piece. Again, I'm going to touch on hardware a little bit later, but there are different ways of allowing access for self-guided tours, right? So typically you're going to see a lockbox option, for access, and the smart lock boxes, are probably the most commonly used within the space. They are easy to move around. They're flexible. That's a big piece of it. You're not swapping out existing deadbolts. You're not changing out, anything at the property for that device to be used. What you're doing is simply placing that, on the front door handle or in a location, near the door to allow access. You have a key or fob in that device, and then it's just directing prospects out, getting access to that lockbox, getting a key, and then opening the door to go view. Now you'll also see smart lock options. So, kind of like a mid-tier lock, not your full smart home, kind of like a fixed deadbolt, going directly on the unit door itself, while being able to allow code-based access. So that's, really for managers who are trying to do away with key tracking altogether. You want to look for a self-guided tour solution, that is giving prospect access, but also, giving that hardware access as well with just code-based. If you don't want to do with keys, you don't want to manage them, save on rekey costs, things like that, you can look for a solution that offers just that hardware deadbolt. And then, kind of similar process for prospects arriving. Instead of just getting a code, for the lockbox device, you have a key for the lock and you go in that way. And then another option you're going to see in the space will be a full smart home IoT solution. Now that does come with connection at the property, whether that be Wi-Fi, cell, or Ethernet. But what that connection at the property or hub will allow you to do is see access in real time. So it's real-time tracking, real-time monitoring. As prospects are unlocking the door, relocking the door, you're able to see that tracked, whether that be through your phone or on your computer. You're able to see prospects as they are arriving, as they're checking out. Of course, with the other devices, the tracking is there. You're seeing the time they arrive, the time they leave. But what that smart home component is giving is that real full-time monitoring, being able to lock, relock remotely, and then also be able to add in connected devices. So connected devices are anything from thermostat, light switches, motion sensors, you name it, and going into the whole home automation, that's kind of that piece there. But that is a way of also allowing self-guided access, and then also looking at, added benefits or a value add for current residents or prospective residents as they move in. And I'll touch more on hardware as I get through as well. What we at Rentley call security, support, and success, S3. So again, that's a huge piece going into self-guided tours. Security is always the main point that managers or people in the space want to talk about, right? We're allowing people to go out on their own. How do we make sure the property is secure? How do we make sure that we're verifying prospects in the correct way to protect that asset? And I'll show our walkthrough as well, kind of what we do to verify security. But I think the biggest piece for it is verifying their actual identity, verifying who the person is before we're allowing them to go out. And kind of the way we do that is first by verifying the phone number. So phone number will be big. We want to make sure that the number being used by a prospect is not a Google Voice number. It's not an internet phone. It is their physical mobile device they're registering with, because that device will need to be present at the property at the time of the tour in order for them to check in. And what we do is actually geotag location through that device as prospects arrive to the property, just to make sure they're physically there before they can check in and receive a code. It's not like you're registering for a bunch of showings online, sitting on your couch and then trying to check in right then and there. We don't allow that sort of access. Of course, we want to see that they're there before we give a code to gain access, just to limit, say any bad actors that might be trying to do any malicious behavior, on a platform. Another big piece will be verifying their actual identity through a driver's license photo, passport photo, and then through a credit or debit card. And I'll highlight what that looks like as well. And verifying, ID information and card information together is going to be important, because we want to see that the information is matching up, right? We have software in the back end running that will actually verify that information, making sure it's matching up before we're allowing somebody to go out. Seeing that the ID isn't fake, seeing that it is a real driver's license, seeing that, the credit or debit card provided is not a prepaid card. It's not a, store-bought grocery gift card. It is their credit or debit card, their name's associated to it. It's matching with the other pieces provided in order for us to really feel comfortable and make sure that these prospects, are real renters. They are serious about going out to view, and then making sure we verify, of course, before we allow them to do so. Support will be a big piece. Support for the prospects as well as managers are going to be big when you're looking at a self-guided touring option. For prospects going through, there are times where they might be confused. They've never used a self-guided tour solution before. They're trying it for the first time. maybe they have some questions that aren't directly related to the actual, property itself or directed towards the management team, really around how do I work myself, through this app or through this web browser version. And, for Rently, we have live support or live chat support within the app or within the browser version to really make sure that prospects feel comfortable, using our platform to say, okay, I'm a little confused on how I might go through the next step. How do I, make sure, I'm checking in and checking out in the right amount of time, things like that, little things that prospects might be a little cautious of or a little confused on. We want to make sure that so they feel comfortable, they can just chat in and say, okay, how do I, check in at the property when I get there? And we give them a little, walk through and a little step-by-step guide on what they should expect. And we see that that works great for prospects feeling comfortable, and then as well as managers too, right? You want to make sure that the solution you're looking at is making sure that prospects feel comfortable, it's easy, it's simple to use, and if there are questions that come up, they can respond back to them in a timely fashion. Another big piece when looking at a solution is going to be client success or customer success, to make sure that the company you're looking for is going to help guide your team in terms of training and then further success and further deployment as you move forward. Setting up a self-guided touring solution, you're saying, hey, you're just going to leave a device out at a property and going to show. It's quite simple. It is easy to use, but there is training involved for the team when it comes to implementing the solution, right? You want to make sure that your team understands, what are the best hours in our market to open up for prospects to view. Are we pushing our listings out to the correct sites? Are we responding back in a timely fashion? What's the feedback we're getting at the properties? How quickly can we turn these leases when these showings take place? Are we reviewing all applications quickly as we're getting them? Is Rently sending the information to the correct place? Are managers seeing that information in real time, being able to respond back? And then just kind of how does it all work, right? How do I add in a property? How do I change description? What happens when it leases? How do I move the device? What if there are issues with the device? What if there are issues with people trying to get through? There's always things that might come up. In the space, you'll see all sorts of things that'll arise, and you want to make sure that when looking at a provider, they're able to kind of guide you through the process, guide through the setup, guide through the training, and then make sure you're seeing furthered success, and ultimately look at that solution to scale moving forward and being able to assist throughout that process. So security, support, success, big piece as well. I'll touch on syndication. So really, it's about where your properties, are being posted. How are renters finding your properties online, and then how are they determining there's a self-guided tour option? Self-guided tour companies, you'll see syndication networks. They're going to be posting out to different websites. Currently, most managers do have syndication in place. Big piece though for syndication when doing self-touring is that when prospects are finding those listings online, when they're selecting those listings to view, that they're getting an automated response back. So, Rently, again, I'll keep using Rently as our example here. But when they're interested in a property, say they're looking on, a major listing site, they click on the property, they say, hey, I want to view. If there's self-guided touring set up there, Rently will respond back and send an automated response and say, hey, we see you're interested in this property. It has a self-guided tour option. Click this button to go ahead and set up a time. And that can be any point of the day, any point at night, kind of that instant lead capture. Somebody's looking, 8 o'clock at night, kind of just scrolling through, seeing properties to view, tomorrow or the next day, and saying, okay, oh, wow, this one has a self-guided tour option. What's that? Click on it. And then they're able to see, oh, I can schedule a time, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I can schedule tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It's really when I want to go out and look, what's convenient for me. And we see that giving prospects that option, as they are looking online, as they click on your listings on those syndication or marketing sites, that those are going to convert to tours, quite quickly with that sort of instant response. So that syndication and then auto response is going to be big for capturing lead traffic as people are looking or scrolling past your properties online to really help them stand out and say, okay, here's our option. I can go view it tomorrow. Let's go see this property. Really just kind of that differentiator as well, as opposed to maybe other properties you'd see within your same market, that don't have that sort of auto response or instant, kind of tracking or instant response set up for them. And then another piece I want to touch on here in key components will be integrations. So integrations are going to be big, mainly for your team set up with their current processes. A lot of managers we talk to are saying, okay, we're looking at a solution like this, but how's it going to affect, our current day to day? Our managers are comfortable working out of an Appfolio or Propertyware. They don't want to change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. We don't want them to have to learn a whole nother portal, a whole nother platform. And what's important to see, with the self-guided tour option is that, the solution can fit into your current process, right? With Rently, we do have integrations with those, management softwares. We want to make sure that it's as easy to use and easy to set up for the manager, as it might be for, even a prospect. With integrations in place, you can do syncs, availability syncs, property description syncs, with an Appfolio, with a Propertyware, so you're not pulling in information or you're not updating or uploading information manually every time you want to change a unit for self-guided tours or change a property for self-guided tours. Just kind of, automatically pulling that information, automatically, be able to see, within those management systems, guest cards or information that's coming through as well. Are people interested? Where's the lead traffic going to go? Where's the lead or guest card going to live? Where's that information going to be worked out of? With those integrations in place, it is important to see that your team can sort of continue on that current day-to-day, current process while having a solution like this implemented on your properties. So that's just kind of touching on key components there. I'm going to continue on and just kind of give a breakdown, of what you might see for self-guided touring. I know some of you have probably, seen something like this before, but just to give an idea of how we do it, kind of the basic overview, step by step for a prospect. So first step, basically for a prospect, will be to find a property listing online that they're interested in and get an automated response, right? So that's going to be done off of that syndication network where a prospect goes on a Zillow, Trulia. They say, okay, I'm interested in this property. I want to go out and view. They'll get an automated response, see that self-guided tour option, and then be able to select a date and time to view. Once they do that, they're going to be asked to verify their identity. So from there, you want to make sure that the prospect information given is correct and they are legitimate before we're going to allow them to go out to view. So they'll create an account. With Rently, it's just simply, phone number, password, and then just an email. Create an account, they're good to go, and then we verify the info. Within the verification, they'll be uploading a photo of their ID, taking a card information, card number, putting that in, take a selfie, and that's it. And I'll show you what that looks like right here in just a second. But making sure that, when a prospect's going through and we're verifying, seeing that the information is correct. If it isn't, being able to respond back and be on top of that in a quickly manner. But we'll verify identity. And then once we have their information on file, and see that they're legitimate, it's then just directing them out to the property at the scheduled time. So, we'll follow up with them, send updated reminders saying, okay, please confirm you're showing Thursday at 10 a.m. Right. So they'll get an update, from the time they book the tour all the way up to an hour before, just to confirm with that prospect that they're going to be there at the scheduled time. Now, what we do is confirm with them an hour ahead of schedule just to make sure they're going to be there. And if they're not, we'll say, hey, we still want you to see this property, but let's go ahead and reschedule so we don't waste that time slot, or we can, give further renter traffic there. So just to stay on top of it and make sure that, when they're booking tours, not just window shopping, that they are going to convert, that they are going to go see it. And that is something that we do see, with the verification in place. For those familiar with Rently, for the first time prospects register through our platform, there is a 99-cent fee for registration. Now, we don't ask that every time. The 99 cents is for us to actually verify their card information provided. What that allows us to do is actually, run the card, make sure it's not prepaid, make sure it's not a gift card, and then actually store it on file. And that 99 cents is not asked every time for prospects. We're going to give them 30 showings in a 60-day period. Again, it's for us to just verify. But what we have seen, with that 99 cents in place is that there are a high number of actually completed showings, based on the amount scheduled. So we see a pretty high conversion rate in terms of scheduled tours and completed tours than actually not having that fee. And that's something that we, had beta tested, a while ago and looked at. And what we did see without that fee or a lowered fee, that there were a higher number of scheduled tours, but actually a significantly lower amount of completed tours. So what we do see with that verification as prospects are seeing or feeling a sense of attachment to the tour. If I pay 99 cents for something, I actually want to, get my money's worth or go out and view it. That's kind of what we see, to say, okay, I booked a tour last night. I was kind of just window shopping online, but I put all my information in, I got verified, put 99 cents down, might as well go see it. So that's something to also look at, and what we see, for renters feeling that attachment and then ultimately converting to the tour. We want to see scheduled tours at a high amount, but the real important part is seeing those completed tours where prospects are getting out to the property and actually viewing, right? So that's something interesting that we saw, and just thought I'd share that with our system in place. But once we verify their information, again, it's just directing them out on site. And when a prospect arrives to the property, what'll take place is you're going to verify location, see that they're there, and then be able to provide code access, whether that be for a lockbox device, a smart lock, or a smart home option. As a prospect arrives on site, verifying location, and then providing that code. And then once the tour is completed, so prospect will go in and view from there. Once they complete the tour, it's then verifying checkout, making sure they're either placing a key back in the device, closing the door, relocking the keypad, and then exiting for the tour. And then what you want to make sure is happening is that as prospects are checking out, the self-guided tour option in place, is getting that instant feedback from those renters. As they leave the property, we want to see what they thought about it, what they think about the flooring, what they think about the countertops, how are the bathrooms, what do you think about the backyard, things like that, that you can gather in person from a leasing agent. But where do we get that information if they're going on their own? So, Rently, for example, they'll get an instant feedback form as they leave the property for them to go ahead and fill out. You can add in questions to say, okay, what are they most interested in? What didn't they like? And for self-guided tours, we do see some quite honest feedback from prospects going through to view. Maybe they're a little bit more timid if there's somebody with them in person walking them through the tour. What'd you think about it? Kind of give a response where you don't want to maybe offend somebody or, give off the wrong idea of the property. But if prospects are going through, if they're doing a self-guided tour, and they're not so interested or they didn't like something about the property, more often than not, they're going to tell you. And that's something to see within the feedback to say, okay, we've done 10 tours, the last few days. Nobody's renting out or nobody's filling out an application. What's going on at the property, being able to look into that feedback and say, okay, they didn't like the color of the bathroom, or, something was too small, things like that, to just consider, for prospects going through, when doing self-guided touring, to still stay up to date on what's taking place during those tours. And then, what you'll have in place with the self-guided tour option, is that link to the application as prospects complete the tour. They say they're interested, they love the property. How do they apply? How do they get in touch with somebody to fill out that application? If it's at 7, 8 o'clock at night and they're very interested and they want to fill it out right away. Well, with a solution in place, Rently, again, as they complete the tour, they're going to get a link to the application instantly to go ahead and fill out. Say they rate it, 1 to 5 stars, they rate 5 stars, they loved it, it was awesome. What'll take place is right after they rate it, they say they're interested, they're going to get a link to the application to be able to go ahead and fill that out, and then it's forwarded to the team. So that's kind of where the self-guided tour system would then stop. It's up until the point where they fill out the application. It's important to understand, what self-guided touring isn't. It's not a platform that's going to, sign leases, fill out leases, things like that. On the back end, it's really up until the point where a prospect is going to complete their application. They're interested, they complete the application, and then it's forwarded off to the team. That's kind of where the job of that solution would stop. You were driving traffic, creating efficiencies, and then being able to pass off that application, get an application and pass it off. So that's just kind of a walkthrough, kind of an overview here. What I want to touch on a little bit more will be security. So it's how do some companies ensure security, at your assets and for prospects going through. So again, I'm just going to use Rently as an example, for information in terms that we use to verify. So again, we ask for card information, credit or debit card from a prospect, take an ID photo. So that's going to be driver's license, passport. We'll take a live selfie. That's going to be important for us because we want to see that the ID photo is going to match with that prospect selfie as they're going through to view. We'll do live chat, of course, within the app. And then we want to prevent cell fraud. So that's doing the carrier check, just making sure that the device being used, is not a Google Voice number, It's not an internet phone. It is their mobile device they're registering with, because again, we'll track location as they arrive on site just to make sure, they are who they say they are. That device is matching up, it's in the right location. And when they arrive, we see that they're at the property. And then each piece of information provided, on the rent lease side, we're going to run through an AI review. And really what that system will do is make sure that each piece of information provided is matching with the next. So like I mentioned earlier, we want to see that the name on the card is matching the name on the ID photo matches the selfie photo, phone's coming up in the right area, to make sure we're getting kind of a full scope, full understanding of who that prospect is, where they're located, before we're allowing them to go out. And, being in this space for 10 years, we've seen it all. Scammers always trying to kind of find a way to break into a system like this, find a way to get out to a property, with some malicious intent. And we do see that, as we constantly update our security platform, as we add in new pieces, we are trying to stay one step ahead and make sure that everything we're doing on our end is to ensure security for the properties, as well as prospects preventing or presenting their information to us. And that kind of leads me into the next point about data protection. So, for prospects going through online, some people looking at entering in information might not be comfortable, giving photos of their ID, giving their credit card information to a company, before they go out. And so we want to make sure that prospects are aware that we are protecting their data, we are protecting their information, and this is done again solely for security purposes. So for Rently, we are PCI compliant. We do hold ISO security certifications. So we want to make sure that renters feel safe and comfortable using our platform, because we're not going to sell their information, we're not going to sell their data. Again, we're doing it solely for security purposes, just to ensure safety, at the property. And I think when renters get an understanding of that, they can look at it and say, okay, we do understand that we have to put our information down, because of course these people are going to let us go and view a property on our own time. But also making sure that it's secure and that they feel comfortable giving information to us in order to verify. So just kind of want to cover that piece there. And just going on to the next slide. So just want to touch on, how a self-guided tour platform can increase operational efficiencies. Really how many more leads can be captured as self-guided touring is used to supplement traditional leasing hours. So just going off some, basic hours that we've seen, through our operators, nationwide, traditional leasing hours, typically, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then maybe some additional hours on the weekend. So even if we're looking at just say a 3-hour additional time period during the week, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then some further hours on Saturday, as well as Sunday, we see in certain markets, upwards of 30% lead increase just because of those additional hours opened up, right? So if we're allowing 5 to 8 p.m. tours, Sunday all day, Saturday all day, of course you can expect higher lead traffic, and of course numbers can vary depending on, demographic, property type, location, and so forth. But with just a few additional hours, open up during the week, you can expect more traffic coming into the property. That's been proven with our system, across the board. You see more hours opened up, it's just going to equal more tours. And I'll show a couple data points on the next slide. But looking at Rently, or a self-guided tour option in the space, is not trying to fully take away from the leasing agents, right? We look at it as an additional tool on their tool belt, to help kind of create super agents per se, when showing properties, right? So if one leasing agent is managing, even 5 different properties, they're doing one tour at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, and they have another person that wants to view a different property across town 1 p.m. the same time. They can't be in 2 places at once, but you don't want to turn somebody away from doing a tour at that time that they're interested in. So just having a solution like this, or an option to say, okay, I can't meet you there myself, but here's a link to go ahead and set up a self-guided tour. Call me with any questions, connect with me after the tour. Let us know what you like, didn't like, as they go through. Or say somebody wants to do a second tour at a property, and they meet with you that same day, and then they want to go out the next day to view it again. They want to bring their wife, they want to bring their kids to the property, just to have an option to say, okay, I have another tour at that time, but here's a code, go out and view it, with the family, let me know what you think, or take measurements, anything like that. So just being able to give that option, or have the ability to say, okay, our team's booked today, our team's booked at this time, but we don't want to turn away tours. We want to drive further lead traffic. We want to create more interest in that property. let's open it up, have that self-guided tour option, and then allow them to be able to go out. So that's just kind of, a way to look at it where it's not fully taking away from the leasing staff, but just kind of supplementing them and allowing them to, feel that they can do multiple things at once or do multiple showings because there's a solution like this in place. And then just kind of, looking at our experience, over the last 6 months, it's been a crazy time. Working from home, doing less contact, for leasing. Obviously, COVID-19 kicking off. We saw a big increase in self-guided tours, of course, as you would expect, because there were, leasing offices closing down, not allowing for in-person tours, avoiding contact, and just kind of what we saw in that time, was prospects, kind of confused on how they're going to get out and view a property. If I can't meet with the leasing staff, calling leasing agents or calling the office and saying, okay, I'm unable to get out there. I need to move, but I can't meet with anybody because it might be closed or they're not doing tours. So just to have this in place, we saw quite a big increase in our showing numbers, of course, April, May, June, just because more managers, were looking at a solution like this, looking at a way to do contactless tours, in a secure and safe fashion, and also being able to track, see information, and respond back as prospects were going out. And so just wanted to share that piece, and of course, just keeping in mind that as we utilize these solutions, it is a supplemental tool, can be used kind of in tandem with that in-person leasing staff, and just, having an option should something come up, something take place, you want to see that there is that option to ultimately, not turn away leads and drive as much traffic as possible. So just wanted to share that slide here. And then to go on to the next piece. So this is just highlighting a heat map that we have. So this is just some aggregate Rently data that we've gathered from prospect touring. So this is Sunday through Saturday self tours. This is pretty much nationwide. And what you're looking at here, so 8 to 20 on the left right here is just 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., just military time. So it's a 12-hour time window for each day of the week. And what we see Monday through Friday throughout the day, the darker color, of course, being the higher amount of tours. And you can see there's traffic throughout the day, but, even more so into that later afternoon, that evening time. Like I mentioned, the 5 to 8 p.m. time slot is going to be big for us Monday through Friday, even during COVID. And then Saturday, of course, big throughout the day, Sunday as well, too. But also just looking at this information and seeing the tours take place, with the self-guided tour platform up and running, you can't expect prospects to be booking tours at any point of the day, right? There's still going to be a good amount of traffic during traditional hours, of course, later in the evenings. And then even like your 8, 9, 10 o'clock time slots, you'll see traffic. If it's 8 in the morning on a Sunday, you're seeing traffic there. So just being aware that any hours you have available, for tours or times to be booked, prospects will book times to view. They want to go when it's convenient for them. They want to go maybe when they can bring the family, bring everybody out. And what we see, across the board is that if hours are open, whether that be really early or really late, or, evening times, weekends, prospects will book tours and will want to go out to view. So just wanted to share this piece here. And then kind of what I want to kind of end off on with is just choosing hardware and looking at different hardware options, when it comes to self-guided touring. So of course, what you're going to see, most in the space, or, the most common option for allowing self-guided access is going to be that smart lockbox device. Main reason being, again, is that it is the easiest to implement. That device is simply just going to be shackled onto the front door. And then you start doing showing same day. It's not changing out any deadbolts. You're not swapping anything out, placing that device on the door, and you're good to go. Straightforward, simple. What that device also allows you to do is be flexible with it. You can move it around from property to property. As one property leases, take that device off the door, move it to the next, you're good to go. But if you're looking at something, a little bit more, if you're looking at something code-based or a little bit more sleek, than a lockbox, there is, typically lock options to do when looking to implement the solution. For example, Rently, we have a mid-tier lock option, which is a smart lock, not the full smart home. It's just the deadbolt lock to allow code-based access. And that device, simply just placing it on the door, and then your tours are going to take place in the same way, right? So it's just the access piece that's different. So there's a lot of different pieces that go into self-showing, the security, the support, the renter journey, management experience, and then access is its own piece. You are able to choose access solutions that work best for you. Maybe your property's a luxury type asset. Maybe you're doing furnished tours. That's something where you want to look at using a smart lock or smart home option just for that further tracking and added security piece. And if you're moving towards, giving those value adds for residents, right? If they're going to move in, they're looking for a smart home option, code-based access. I want to do everything from my phone. I don't want to do with traditional keys. I want to allow easier access for maintenance, even things like that are things to consider when you're looking at implementing an access solution with self-guided tours. So if you're looking at the smart lock or then the full smart home as well. Smart home, that's what you're going to look at when you're adding on the hub, coming with, full connection. You're hooking up to, say, cell network. You're going to do Wi-Fi, Ethernet at the property, and then you want people to be able to be tracked in real time. You want to be able to lock, unlock that door remotely. You want to see what's going on, in real time, with thermostats, even with motion sensors, with light control. All of that can be built in with the smart home. And at the same time, before prospects are moving in, they're able to go through and do a self-guided tour, with that lock or with that type of access. So just important to remember that when you're looking to implement a self-guided tour option, you're picking the hardware access control that's right for your type of property. If you're looking to go at scale, you're looking to move quickly, be flexible. You're turning leases very quickly. Lock boxes are probably going to be the best fit for it. If you're looking for code-based access, you want to do away with traditional key tracking, but you still want to be able to, keep the costs low or lower than doing a full smart home option. Smart lock's the way to go. And then, if you're looking luxury type assets, the value add for residents, saving on those rekey costs moving forward, and just, adding into that property itself, helping differentiate in the market, smart home's probably the solution for you. So just to consider when looking at a platform, just the different options that are out there, different types of access and things like that that go into the self-guided touring platform. But that's kind of the last piece for me here. I did want to open it up for questions. I can pull up the chat and just kind of see what's going on. Got about 15 minutes remaining. So what I'll do here is just kind of direct everybody to the Rentley booth. Come check us out. See our product suite. Ask any questions to me. Any further information that you would want. Be happy to respond back and answer those questions there. And again, everybody, I appreciate the time. Thank you for sitting on, and look forward to connecting soon. Thank you so much.